What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to Pop Health. I hope you had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all the wonderful good stuff. And today we're gonna be talking about the new Netflix documentary Hell Camp, which basically goes over the troubled teens industries, its origins, as well as one of its early pioneers in Steve Cartisano. And to really just jump into this overview and review, basically this is going over the Challenger Foundation. This is a foundation that is not really well known, but basically it was a therapy camp for troubled teens and, quote unquote degenerates that was founded by Cartisano in the 1980s. And basically, he propped this up as a program to send, your troubled youth, the teens that was doing, substances, was out all hours of the night, disobeying their parents, really grip them before they were gone. And this itself isn't bad because during the 80s, a lot of parents were having a hard time wrangling their kids, especially when they were doing substances, when they were out wild and out partying, not really listening. And kind of like the shift of the American norm started changing towards kids being more feeling liberated, feeling more rebellious. However, not only would these parents pay thousands of dollars, which ended up being I think 16K for each kid, basically they had to trek about 500 miles in the Utah desert. Now, climate change wasn't big back then. Like, climate change wasn't as crazy as it is now. Like, we know it's hot, especially in Texas. It gets very, very hot in the summers, but it was also very hot in the 90s and the 80s and all that when this took place, because during one of the testimonials during the movie, they had said that degrees can get up to like at least 100 degrees on an average day in the desert. And this is something that you shouldn't just like let kids or even inexperienced adults go through on a daily basis. And this not only end up with a little teenager being unalive. Kristen Chase, her story was covered extensively in a documentary, but there was numerous allegations of abuse and just mistreatment by the children or on the children throughout the whole program in its existence. Like, there was instances where kids were gagged to trees, kids were tied up, hog-tied, and basically just beaten if they refused to really go on this hike. And to keep in mind, they didn't have all the bare necessities. Like, literally, like, they maybe had the clothes on their back, but pretty much they had to basically work for getting like food, work for getting water, work to do this, that, and third. And basically they had to like really hike and do this to be able to get the bare necessity for them to survive, which in itself is child endangerment. And so going back to Kristen Case, basically Steve Cartisano was charged, but he was later acquitted of these charges of neglect and negligible homicide because of a technicality found in court. And so not only was he not charged in this instance, but basically he later opened up with the audacity another therapy program called Pacific Coast Academy, not to confuse it with Zoe 101. But basically this was a program where parents sent their kids to Samoa, who were rebellious, who were unruly and all that. And at the end of the day, they ended up finding out that these kids were sent there on a barren forest land. Nothing really was there, no facilities, no restroom, no sleeping accommodations and all that. And they had to build their own stuff while also building a entire town. Like all his other ventures, there was no structures, there was no trained staff. It was basically average Joes just looking over these kids or whatever. But one thing that really made this blow this case wide open with this particular camp was that one of the girls was caught on film creating allegations that she was hogtied, she was tortured by her fellow campmates who were made junior camp counselors to get more privileges and get more control over the other students. But she was also sent in what they call isolation. Basically you're supposed to spend some time alone to survive on your own and be able to build up that mental fortitude to be better, to be resilient, and to like rehabilitate. But in reality, she was sent to the village chief who SA'd her. So instances like that are just a tip of the iceberg of like what this documentary really accused Steve for doing. And unfortunately he was never able to be held accountable for his actions. He died of or unalive because of a heart attack on 2019 or in 2019. This man literally got rich off of parents who didn't really know what to do with their kids, who were acting out, who were being unruly, using substances and all that, and used to kind of like just say no, scare, and the whole crack epidemic that's happened in the 80s, just be like, hey, this is a good alternative to what you can do. Please send them to my camp. And basically got rich at the expense of these kids' lives. And so while I implore y'all to go watch this documentary, because there's a lot of stuff I didn't go over that they cover in much more better details, I do want to like spotlight on like the topic of that whole documentary, and basically that is the spotlight the troubled teen industry. And a lot of you may have been exposed to this, you know, kind of like Spotlight with Turnabout Ranch with Bad Baby and Dr. Phil. Basically, if you don't know what this story is, Bad Baby was a troubled youth that was appearing on Dr. Phil, and basically at the end of the show, he referred her to a camp that he personally sent a few teens to, which was, you know, Turnabout Camp. And basically she then came out exposing the camp for being very, manipulative. And what came out of that is that this video where she kind of exposed the horrors that happened in that camp, and kind of like demanded Dr. Phil to have an apology, because he not only sent her, like I said, he sent multiple kids here, and they all kind of like have a similar story of just like, experiencing, neglect and, harsh punishment and abuse and all that. And it's something that is not uncommon, and especially in this space. And it really just doubled down with, like, what she experiences. Unsilenced is basically a nonprofit that is fighting against this type of business. And basically a lot of these programs use what they call a punitive tough love approach and attempt to correct behavior instead of like treating mental health issues or working through trauma. Regardless of diagnosis, children are expected to adhere to the same set of stringent rules or be harshly punished. Some of the punishments can include food or sleep deprivation, use of isolation, solitary confinement rooms, forced to eat bodily fluids, emotional, physical, and SA. Dangerous use of physical, chemical, or mechanical restraint methods, punitive use restraints, forced, excessive exercise, forced labor, military methods, disciplines. You get the gist of it. And the thing I want to highlight with this that I'm glad they called out was that, they attempt to correct behavior instead of treating mental illnesses or working through trauma. The thing I once initially said when I was watching this documentary was there were a lot of kids in the documentary that say like, okay, my dad passed away, I had a parent that passed away, or parents going through divorce, red times with siblings, life was getting stressed, I just needed something to release myself, and a lot of times it was through substance use or being violent and all that. And while I'm not saying that is a good excuse, I'm not saying that kids should like be exempt from the consequences of their actions. But at the end of the day, sending your kid to a tough love camp, having them hike 63 days in the desert in a Utah, sun, is not a way to fix bad behavior. And that's not to say that wilderness survival programs don't have any beneficial, outcomes for youth. Like, there is a growing base of trying to examine these type of programs. And pretty much this goes over the idea of adventure therapy, basically using experimental learning activities in outdoor environments for assessment and intervention at an individual and group level in order to affect psychological and behavioral change. Adventure therapy also used as a brief intervention or embedded in a broader case management approach, as well as it empowers participants by providing fun, engaging activities that involve real obstacles, which, although often appear to be impossible to overcome, are attainable. Research to date has shown that adventure therapy to be effective in treating a range of behavior and mental health problems, which is shown in a recent meta-analysis of 197 studies of adventure program outcomes, found that adventure therapy is mildly effective in facilitating positive short-term changes in psychological, behavior, emotional, and interpersonal domains, and that these changes appear to be maintained in the longer term. But what they were doing in these documentaries is not this. This, elicits fun activities and to build self-confidence. What they were doing in the documentary, in the Challenger Foundation, and probably the Turnabout Ranch that, what Dr. Phil is doing, they were breaking kids down to try and build them back up, as well as giving them, harsh and bare minimum conditions that basically, borderlines on the idea of just like slavery. That is not what this study is talking about. And it's very sick that a lot of these places are using, the realm of public health, studies, research, and evidence-based, theories to say like, oh, we're accredited, we're proving, there's evidence to it. Like, look at this study when it's like, these are two different things. And one thing continue to note, basically in this scope review or literature review, this review identifies the need to more clearly identify and articulate outdoor adventure and practices as it relates to child and youth care practice, meaning that the field is too small enough to really see you know, the total value of this, or to just really just say like, oh, send your kid here or send your kid there, don't send your kid there. It even states that while research outcomes in outdoor adventure approaches to child and youth care appear positively robust, ethical concerns in wilderness therapy practice are identified and deserve further attention, meaning that there needs to be more research done in this field. So don't take the word of, you know, Dr. Phil or just a lot of other, you know, kids who might seem like they're doing well after the completing program, when in actuality they have been traumatized by these programs that aren't really evidence-based. And so with that being said, that has been a video today. Now, if you want to see me to do another follow-up video on this matter, I'm looking to do that probably in the new year as a documentary exposing more about, you know, not only Cartisano, but basically about, you know, Dr. Phil's and a lot of the other, you know, therapy, you know, survival wilderness, you know, adventure camps for troubled teens, because this is a very big problem that, you know, thousands of kids are still being sent to these camps during the year. And it's just one of those things where we need to really like discuss like how effective these camps really are, like how traumatic they actually are, you know. So with that being said, if you like to see today, like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, all that wonderful good stuff. And from my family to yours, I hope you have a very happy and safe new year. I hope you had a Merry Christmas, happy holiday, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. And just really, you know, just want to say that I'm very blessed for the channel. Like, we've been getting a lot more subscribers lately, you know, videos are going more in circulation, more viewers and all of that. And, you know, this has been a very tremendous year of growth of the channel, and I'm looking to grow more with you all in the new year. So with that being said, stay warm, stay frosty, depending on what part of the country you're in, and peace out.